I know that when you won earlier in the evening last Tuesday, you believed that you were in the middle of a red wave, as so many had predicted. Now, it's funny to listen to some of these more left-leaning shows and anchors say, you know, how the right was predicting a red wave. Well, that's not true. It was coming from the left and the right. Virtually everyone, with just a couple of exceptions, believed the only question was how big the wave would be. So you thought you were in the middle of a red wave. It didn't wind up happening. Why do you think it didn't?
You know, there are some interesting things that are going to have to be analyzed. There are people saying that we won a significant majority of the votes for Congress, but didn't win a significant number of new seats. Some of that has to do with how the seats are districted. So gerrymandering can have something to do with it. I also think that it's very, very hard to win a vote where the ballots are mailed to everyone. You know, when it used to take some initiative to vote, I think that the voters tended to be people with more initiative and people, I believe, to be probably more involved and maybe better informed about politics. Now, like in Nevada, you know, it's very difficult to win when the franchise has become complete through mailing the ballots to everyone. I think it's also harder to verify who these are. Now, I'm not saying there was widespread fraud, but I am saying it's easier to verify who someone is if they show up. And the sort of tragic comedy of Arizona, not looking at Chad's, but looking at everyone's signature, shows that they know that there could be a problem and they're trying to prevent it. But that problem doesn't exist when you vote in person with an ID. And so I really think that it also, I guess, creates more doubt on the part of the voter. You know, even though I can't say, oh, well, there was fraud, it makes me worry that I see all the candidates that I'm for winning on the same day of the election, and then I see drip by drip by drip as the votes keep coming in over weeks that they lose their elections. And so I think if they want to encourage, you know, the left says they, you know, it's all about democracy for them. If they want to encourage support of democratic voting, we'd all be more encouraged to believe the results if they all came in a very timely fashion and were counted that day. Why a state would take early voting and not start counting them before the day of the election? If it takes 2 weeks for Arizona to count its mail-in ballots, for goodness sake, they should start counting them 2 weeks before the election's over. So, you know, I think that there are a lot of things going on with the way the elections are run that make a difference. The 10 states that send out ballots to everyone, 9 out of 10 are dominated by Democrats. Utah is the only exception. So I think how we run our elections is important. And like in Kentucky, I think 95 to 98% of people showed up and voted in person, which I think is a better way to run an election.
It's the way we always used to do it and worked out fine. And there wasn't a lot of election denialism going on back in those days. What about Trump? New York Post, Wall Street Journal, some on Fox pointing the finger at him as responsible for bad candidate quality, making certain candidates embrace his election denialism. J.D. Vance has an op-ed out today saying, don't blame Trump. What the GOP needs to do is build a turnout machine, get more money, saying our party has one major asset, contra conventional wisdom, to rally the voters we need. President Donald Trump, now more than ever, we need his leadership to turn these voters out, and we suffered from his absence from the stage. So which camp are you in?
I think it's easy for people to have arguments when you lose. Everybody's got an argument because nobody wants to take responsibility, but it's probably in all of the above that there's a little bit of everything involved in why people lose. But when you say it's candidate quality, you know, if I were one of those candidates, I'd take offense to that. But just for example, Dr. Oz, I think he's an intelligent, well-spoken. He was on daytime television for 10 to 15 years. He connects with people. I've seen him do the one-on-one town halls. He really can talk to people and listen to people. And hands down, he knew the information better and could, present himself in a debate. His opponent was and is severely impaired, and yet the opponent won. So I think it's unfair to Dr. Oz, and also not an accurate thing to say, oh, Fetterman was the better quality candidate and Oz was lacking in quality. That's not right. To blame it all on Trump's not right. To blame it all on McConnell's not right. It's a combination of things, but it's also, I guess I'm not big into the blame game. I'm into what do you have to do moving forward. For example,
that may require some blame.
Say again?
That may require some blame, right? Like if there was one major force working for evil, like some like John Podhoretz, I keep mentioning him because he's a never Trumper who really thinks Trump is to blame for all this stuff. then we need to know that, right? So, I mean, an honest look would require factoring in everything and seeing whether it's real.
Yeah, and I guess, but the thing is, if I'm looking at Pennsylvania, I'm looking at a state that they describe as Alabama in between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. The rural part of Pennsylvania is probably as conservative maybe as Kentucky is, but Pittsburgh and Philadelphia dominate. Probably together, they're more than half of the vote, would be my guess. And so the problem really is, if you want to win Pennsylvania, try, instead of getting 10% of the black vote, we need to get 20 or 25%. Now, it's easier said than done. We've been saying it forever. But I can give you an example. In our state, our attorney general is Republican, African American. Our previous lieutenant governor, when we had a Republican governor, African American. Good friend of mine. She served in the military and also came out of the Tea Party, and I met at some of the first Tea Party movements. We had several other candidates that were great candidates, all African American, all running as Republican. You just have to keep doing that year in and year out till the African American public says, well, these Republicans aren't too bad. Maybe I'll consider it. But
right, this isn't decades, like a white country club.
We weren't even being considered. Say again?
Yeah. I said that until they look at the party and say to themselves, okay, this no longer looks like a white country club. You got people like you mentioned, Daniel Cameron, you got Winsome Sears, lieutenant governor in Virginia, and so on. And the party is definitely becoming more diverse. There's no question about it. But yeah, bigger numbers, especially now that they're losing so many white suburban voters to the Dems. Let me ask you this, because I'm not that interested in this, but I should spend a minute squabbling over leadership fight, who should be in the leadership. McConnell, should he be the leader of the minority now in the Senate? Should Kevin McCarthy be the leader over in the House? Would you support McConnell? And do you support a vote before George is decided?
I think it's probably better to wait on the vote. I think that we don't know who's going to be the senator from Georgia, but we also don't know who the senator is from Alaska. This is for the next session. Does the current senator from Alaska, she's probably going to win, I think, in the ranked choice. But should she vote on the next one? I guess she doesn't get to vote now because she hasn't been declared the senator for January. But is that fair to her not to let her vote? Or is it fair to Herschel Walker just to say, oh, yeah, we really want you to win, but you don't get to vote on who the leader is?
Yeah.
So
we don't care what you have to say.
Makes no sense to have the vote now. They should definitely wait.
Imagine buying an Italian sports car or your dream home for less than $1 a day. Well, now you can own an X chair. That's the office chair I personally use in my office, and it is arguably the finest office chair in the world for only $20 a month. Yes, that is less than $1 a day. For that amount of money, you can own something that's going to make the hours spent at your house, at your desk, 1,000 times more comfortable and productive. Not only do I love my X chair, Abby's got one. She loves hers too. Kevin's trying to get one, her husband. Doug's, I'm going to get out. It's mine. From the moment I first sat down on my X chair, I immediately felt the difference. Trust me, once you sit down in an X chair, you're going to understand. There is an X chair for every style and for every budget. They even offer built-in massage. Who doesn't want that in their chair? Not to mention heating and cooling. As we go into these cooler months, something you may want, and all for less than $1 a day. Check out all the options and their amazing financing plans at xchairmk.com. That's a letter X, chair, mk.com. No other chair can compare to the X chair. Go to xchairmk.com now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.